Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a phenomenal woman who I've had the pleasure of knowing probably a little bit more than 15 years now. She's always been a treat to be around, just a keep it real type person. She's an entrepreneur, she's a mom, and just a woman of God, and just an exciting and an interesting person to be around. We had some great conversations over the years, and so this was an easy choice to invite her to be a part of the show, and I'm so thankful that she's taking time out of her busy schedule to do just that. So without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Miss Denise Hatcher. Denise, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored that you would
Absolutely.
want me on. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So again, it's been a while since we had a chance to to chat, and what a great way to kind of reconnect again being on the podcast. I'm sure you're going to have some exciting powerful stories to share. Giving the audience a little snippet of your life and things that you've overcome, and obstacles that you made your way through, because this is what it's all about here. So, with that said, before we start getting into the nuts and bolts of everything, I do want to, of course, give you an opportunity to share with the audience a little bit about yourself. Where you're from, anything that you just like to share, just in general about yourself, to give them a little taste of who Denise is. They're going to learn more about you as we move along, but just give them a little sample. Who is Denise Hatcher?
Okay, Denise Hatcher here. I am a mom. As he said, I have a brand new 30-year-old son, which is amazing to me. Single right now. A woman of God. My whole life, I've been that. From Indianapolis, born and raised, been here my whole life. Keep saying I'm gonna leave and try something different, but haven't managed to do that yet. I've got about 30 years. Looking real forward to retirement, hopefully in the next couple of years. I'm a simple person. What you see is what you get. I try to treat people the way they treat me. I'm very family and friend oriented. Those are my backbones outside of my faith in Christ. That's what keeps me going. And so hopefully, I can share some things that will help somebody that needs some help in whatever area. So I'm just really honored to be here, and I appreciate you, Joe, for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for, like I said, giving them a little sample about who you are, and they're getting ready to find out a little bit more. So, with that said, as we talk about our journeys, our experiences of life, you really can't tell the full complexity of the story that you share without starting from the beginning. That's the foundational basis of where it all comes from and what makes you be the person that you are. I'm a firm believer of that. And so, with that said, if you would kind of take us back, reflect back on your childhood, growing up in Indianapolis, kind of give people who maybe not be even familiar with Indianapolis. Of course, I'm spent 17 plus years in Indianapolis myself before relocating. And so I'm very familiar, obviously, with the area and what that's like. But just to give the audience an idea, what was it like for you growing up? Fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there was any particular challenges that you had to deal with in that growing up in Indianapolis. Please share what that experience was like for you.
It was my early childhood was kind of unique because I'm a only child, and my mom and I lived for a few years with her family, and it was a family of 10. And so she was one of the older children. So her younger siblings are more like my sisters and brothers versus aunts and uncles. And so I kind of got exposed to some things early on, just being in a household of, even though I was the only child, I grew up in a household full of people. So there was always that support system there. And Indianapolis to me has always been the small town that wants to be a big town. But growing up, it really felt like a small town because of the community. Everybody knew everybody looked out. And so coming up that way, I had a lot of confidence in just myself. And I mean, I had some insecurities, but in terms of like where I fit in with the rest of the world, because of that support system, I've got five uncles, five aunts. a set of grandparents and my mom all under one roof. So it just really laid like a wonderful foundation. And I was kind of fearless. And I've always been a person that advocated for the underdog, so to speak, even at a young age because of the way that I was brought up. We were brought up to be aware of what our rights were, to know where we stood at all times. And so, even though my parents never married and never even shared the same roof, I still feel like I had that whole family dynamic just growing up in the house the way that I did. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
that's beginnings.
And as you said, that's a very unique setup because, again, I was the only child as well. But then I've also had spells and times in
Mhm.
my life where I had the opportunity of other kids being in the house with me or other,
Mhm.
people from the community, if you will, that were a part of my life and contributed in their own little way to
Absolutely.
shaping and molding you. So, I get into these
And
conversations
the
quite a bit where we talk
cousins.
about that community effect and how we just don't have that as much like we
Mhm.
used to.
We just
So
don't have it. I hate it
yes,
for our kids that they don't have that
absolutely,
because I
absolutely.
feel like it instills something in you that gives you a lot of confidence and just that go get 'em type of fearlessness that I think is kind of missing
Hmm.
um, today's youth.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think the way you described Indianapolis is perfect, especially how it was, in the earlier years. Like I said, it's the small city trying to be a big city, and
Trying
technically
to
it
be
is a
big
big
city.
city, but I mean, I can just think
It
back
is.
to,
It is.
yeah, and a lot of people don't know that. It's like, but I remember like growing up in Chicago. Of course, I have a lot of family in Indianapolis. So every time we would go visit Indianapolis, it would feel like the country to me. It was like a small, little small hick
Yeah,
town in
because
my
of the
mind at that time.
cornfields. And,
Yeah, all of
yeah.
that. I had
Mhm.
cousins that lived in log cabins and people living out in the way back woods in the dark,
In the sticks.
streets with no sticks. Yeah, with no street lights and the roads dark. The lights off the reflectors in the streets, and that was weird to me. Coming from a place like Chicago, and I
Coming
never
from
imagined
Chicago.
that I would someday live there and live there extensively. I probably spent almost as many years there as I did in Chicago before relocating. So, um,
Mhm.
but just to see how the city has evolved, but it still has that small town feel, even for a big
It
city.
does, and
Um,
I think that's what's so attractive about it is
hmm.
because and then the proximity to the bigger cities because we're
Yes,
so close to Chicago, so close to Detroit, but we still can come back and be that hometown feeling.
absolutely, absolutely. So good stuff, good stuff. So I want to go a little bit deeper, of course. I appreciate, of course, you sharing that beginning portion of of coming up, and again, I believe that plays a major role in you being the person that you are. But as you know, you live life long enough. There's gonna come a time when you kind of face some obstacles, some challenges that hit a little different.
Mhm.
Even if you're really good at working your way through, I think I remember even, I know for a fact, I saw a post that you recently did on social media where you were sharing a post of somebody else, but they were talking about how, you always figure it out. You work out a way to figure it out somehow.
Gonna figure
And
it
some
out.
some people are just built like that. They just figure
Mhm.
stuff out. But every now and then, even for the ones who just figure it out,
Mhm.
every now and then you get hit with that situation, that circumstance that it just doesn't work like it's supposed like it usually does for you. It hits a little
Mhm.
heavier. The weight is much more on top of you, and you actually for a moment in time feel like, you know what, I'm not sure if I can make it through this. I'm feeling a little defeated
Mhm.
here. I'm feeling like I just want to throw my hands up in the air, wave the white flag. So if you would tell us about a time when you faced a situation like that where you were questioning, you were doubting if I'm going to be able to make it through this. We know the fact that you're here today lets us know that you did, but if you would kind of walk us
Yeah.
through what that time was like for you and what that experience was, and how did you ultimately have that moment where you were able to overcome and get to the other side of that storm.
I think probably the first time that something like that happened, where I was kind of like, I don't know how to handle this, was becoming a single mother myself. and the realization that I wasn't going to have the help from the dad that I thought that I would have. And so I went through a period where there was a lot of anger because I'm trying to pour into this child by myself. And not so much the financial aspect of it was devastating to me. It was more so the lack of accountability and the lack of presence in my son's life from his father. And then I'm trying to, and I know single mothers have, maybe even worse experiences than the one that I had. But for me personally, it really devastated me that my son didn't have that father figure. He had uncles and cousins and grandparents and all of those, but the father role from his dad. And so, I mean, we went back and forth to court, and it just took it really took a toll on me accepting the fact, how can he not love our son as much as I do and want to be upfront and personal in his life? And so I struggled, and it kind of turned me into some ugly spaces just in the way that I dealt with it, because I had never experienced, because it was rejection, not so much of me, but of my son. And so that was really painful, and trying not to be bitter and put that bitterness off on my son, or speaking ill of his father, or using that as an excuse to not still give him the best that I could give of myself. And so the way that I really got through it, honestly, Joe, was just prayer and just realizing that sometimes situations happen because that was a choice. I chose this person to be his dad. It was, you know what I mean? And so sometimes the choices we made lead us to where we are, but just realizing that I can only be what I can be for my son and give him, all of my experience and the love and support that he needed, but I can't fix that for him. I also can't force someone to be a parent if that's not what is on their agenda or if that's not in their heart to do. And so that was early on. I was like 25. So I wasn't young, like a teenager, but I was young enough for that to, I think that was one of the first things that changed me deeply inside, like my spirit, because like I said, I was kind of bitter for a minute. The beautiful thing though, my son, it was almost like God blessed me with a child that was so loving and funny and cheerful
Mm-hmm.
that it was just a pleasure to try to nurture that. And so with that, and I had a great support system from family and friends. I was able to move past it, but it traumatized me because I just could not wrap my mind around, how do you not want to be a part of his life? And it didn't
Mm.
have anything to do, now looking back, it was really about him. He just had other issues going on that I wasn't aware of, and it interfered with him being able to be the best father he could be. But that was in the early years. I mean, that was probably one of the most traumatic things that up until that point that I had experienced, because I had a great childhood. Like I didn't have any type of trauma or any, just the regular bumps and rumps of, growing up. Yeah.
Right.
So that, I mean, that would be, and I tell even the young girls in my family, because I'm a big I love the youth. I love working with youth, and I've mentored on different occasions. And when I've encountered young girls who are single mothers in that situation, that is one of the things I love to share with them. You're going to make it through it. You're going to make it through it, but focus on your child, focus on giving them all the love that you can, nurturing them, and trying not to carry that bitterness into not pouring that into the child, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely not being negative about their father or speaking negative. I never did any of that because I just, I had had my own experience, because my dad wasn't as present in my life as he should have been either. So I had a little experience on the other side of it, but not as me being the parent. So,
Wow, wow. Again, I mean, first off, thank you for your transparency and sharing that. I know personally, I have a great admiration for a single mom, having grown up in a single parent home myself. My mom raising
mhm,
me. So, and of course, when you and I first met, your son was in his early teen years at that time, and I can
mhm,
remember from stories that you shared and even pictures that you showed, it was clear that the two of you had that close bond. And so, whenever you would share things like that, it automatically made me think of what my relationship was like with my mother, and it's
mhm,
great to have that kind of bond when a mother and son are just,
mhm,
you know, they're in this thing together, and they're loving on each other, they're supporting one
mhm,
another and being there. So it's a wonderful thing to
mhm.
have. I am curious to know, just kind of to build upon what you said. Um, how hard was it to? I mean, I know single parenthood in its general sense is difficult, but I think it adds another
Mhm,
layer when you are the single mother of a son, and particularly if we want to even break it down
mhm.
even further, a single black mother of a black son. In
Absolutely.
today's world, with the things going on like
Mhm.
they are,
Yes.
talk a little bit about that part of it, and how were you able to, I guess, to navigate through that element of it, that I have a son, and with everything that's going around, how do I, because that's one of the struggles that a lot of single moms have, is like, how do I as a mom teach my son how to be a man when the man who should be there teaching him that is not present? Like, how did you compensate for that, and what things worked for you that might, again, maybe have helped to that single mom who has that son? What worked for you to kind of help you meet that need for him?
Well, first of all, I had a great support system. So my granddad, my maternal granddad was awesome. He was the father figure for me, and so that spilled right over to my son. And then I had five in-house uncles. I mean, once my son came along, we weren't living there anymore, but they were a significant part of his early years. And then I just always believe that the foundation of church gives you the increase.
Hmm.
And so I kept him in church. We went regularly, and so the brothers at the church, the other fathers of other kids, they would take him under their wing. And then also, um, I have always also believed the idle mind is a playground for the devil, and so kids need structure. And I was a very structured parent. He tells me now I was a little too structured, but I just believe in consistency. Whatever that consistency, kids thrive when they have structure and
Hmm.
consistency. And so I was adamant about that. And there were times, Joe, when I worked a full time job, a part time job, and I went to school and got my degree while I was raising him. And I wanted him to see that, see me studying, seeing me grind and hustle. And I never I started talking to my son the way I'm talking to you when I never did baby talk with him, but I just was very transparent and informative with him. Met him where he was, not talking over his head, but I just made sure that we had open lines of communication at all aspects of his growing up. And with that, letting him know you are a young black boy. There's going to be some differences happening with you that may not happen with your other counterparts when you go to school. And you need to be aware of this and not to put the fear of God into him about it, but just so that he was aware of who he is at all times. Um, and so I kept him in sports, and I was very particular about what type of sports he was in. I mean, I let him try. He tried every sport. He tried every sport, and my rule was if you start it, you're going to finish it. Whatever
Hmm.
we start, we're going to finish because that teaches discipline. But I wanted to make sure that the people that were over the sport, the groups or whatever sport he was in, what type of men are am I bringing my kid around? Are they trying to instill? Are they trying to teach them the basics? Or is it just about winning all the time? Like, I was very intentional about positive people being around my son. And that's not to say that he didn't experience some negative, because we got family and friends that don't always color inside the lines. And I think it's good to see that too, because that tells you what you don't want to do. That's the
Mm-hmm.
direction you may not want to go in. I mean, I am the child of a recovering drug addict. My dad has only been clean for about 30 years. So he got to see some of that, just through me talking to him and even within the family. So I just believed in presenting a whole holistic approach to the way that I raised my son. And that's part and parcel because of the way that I was raised. And
Mm-hmm.
so I tried to arm him with how you treat, me and my mom were big on this is how you treat a woman, at an early age, my son, yes, ma'am, whatever. Open the door, close the door, say thank you, whenever I seen him falter on that kind of stuff, hey, pull him to the side, wouldn't berate him, but say, did you realize that she was walking in the door and you let the door slam? I mean, those are little bitty things that you can do, because a woman cannot teach a man how to be a man, but you can teach him how to treat a woman, which in turn teaches him how to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a long story of, there were a lot of moving pieces that went into helping me raise him to be the best human being he could be and the best man he could be, while being aware of that. Because my son was he was a kind of a big guy. And so you see him out in the world, there's fear of black men already. And then you got this bigger kid, darker complected, but he's a gentle giant. But I had to make him aware you're not always going to be received
Mm-hmm.
in a welcome way. And you have to start you have to start all of our children off that we're raising black kids. But our boys, you have to make them aware of that so they know how to conduct themselves. So,
I love that. I love everything that you just said because it was like you were the formula, the blueprint that you just laid out. Um, it's a very workable and a necessary blueprint. I mean, and again, as you were telling that story, I was thinking back. That's exactly, give or take a detail here or there. That's exactly how my mom did it with me. It was about that. It was about that structure. It was about being intentional about, you know, what you needed to know and be aware of. Having those straightforward conversations, not the talking to you all, soft and anything. It was I'm gonna give it to you, straight, no chaser, so to speak. And this is what you need to know. It's not to scare you, but it's to prepare
rather
you.
her give it to you than the streets show you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, no, no. You're fine. You're fine.
That was always my fault. I'm not going to teach you nothing wrong or tell you nothing wrong, but the world is not going to love you like I do. So it's
Mm-hmm.
my job to tell you the truth, no
Yes.
matter how difficult it is.
Absolutely. And I loved how you said, I tapped into community, whether it was, uncles or cousins or other male role models that I tried to connect him to. And of course, one of the ways that you were able to connect him to that was, his involvement with church. Mom was the same way with me.
Mhm.
You know, and I really loved when you talked about I had him involved in sports, and I was never a big athletic person, even though I've loved sports. That wasn't my
Mhm.
gift. But
Mhm.
you spoke to something that was so powerful because, again, today, while we have a lot of parents who are, again, connecting their kids to sports, connecting their young men to sports, I don't know how many of them are really taking it to that next level. What you spoke to was I didn't just let him be in sports, but I was particular, not so much about the sport per se that he played, but who was the men that were going to be overseeing his coaches, his trainers, whoever was going to be. Was he going to be surrounded by men who were going to teach him the level of the sport, the understanding of the
Hmm.
sport that went beyond just did we win or lose. Is he
Exactly.
learning some life skills? Is he
Hmm.
around role models? Because
Hmm.
whenever you hear that sports conversation, that's one of the things that they say. Well, it's good to get kids in sports because it teaches them discipline, it teaches them character and
Team
integrity
building.
and things like that. But how often do you see that being taught? Because
Exactly. Or
especially when you
even teaches them how to lose.
right. Okay, so now you see you done said something else because in this day and time you have kids who very talented in their respective sports, but because the kids have been taught and the parents have been played a major role in that, bouncing them from club to club, bouncing them from this program to that program to keep positioning them to be on teams that they win. And while it's
Hmm.
always great to win and rack up the trophies
Absolutely.
and the ribbons and all of that, what's going to happen to those kids when they actually lose? What's going to happen when they're not the star on the team? What's going to happen when
Or
they're
if they
just on?
get hurt.
Yeah, if they get hurt, like how are they going to be able to receive that? They don't even know how to lose. They don't know how to be told no. They don't know. It's a whole entitlement generation now, and they're just
That's a
not.
whole nother segment right
That's
there.
just not prepared. And
Yeah.
so when I hear you talk about how you raised your son, I hear and I feel you were intentional about preparing him for not only the greatness that was in him and what he could experience, but also the reality that as wonderful and loving and gentle a giant as you are, everybody's not going to view you like that. They're going to see you for this dark skinned black boy, and they're going to stereotype that into you being this
Monster.
violent, maybe not intelligent, maybe overbearing person that you're not, but that's how that particular
Mhm.
segment of society may view you. And you need to be prepared for that. And you need to not play into that stereotype, but you need to be able to respond accordingly, to let them know that this is not this is not what I come to the table with. This is not who I am, and always being mindful of that. And versus being kind of naive in this world and just thinking that again everything's going to be handed to you, that you're always going to have it an easy,
It's not.
laid out, smooth path type of way, and that's just not life. You know, just on a side note, like one thing right now that my daughter, she's been notoriously really good at school. I mean, pretty much a student for the most part, and this is her sophomore year, and one of the challenges that she's experiencing for the first time is she has a class that for the first time the way the teacher teaches, it's not the traditional here's the guided questions where when we have a test or a quiz, you can just kind of take it light to study or whatever. So she's getting some hits in this class
Uh,
in a way where I'm having to study, like, and she's used to catching on to stuff, and I'm mad in one way at the schools because I'm like, you're waiting too late in the game to teach these kids because these schools nowadays are trying to coddle them, and we don't want them to feel like they're not winners, and that's like we talked about in sports. It used to just be the first place winner and
Salary.
everybody who's lost. Now it's the first place winner and the 25th place winner is, everybody,
Yeah,
because you're on the
that's
team.
not
Everybody
really
gets a
useful.
trophy. Everybody gets a,
No,
no, that's not how this life
no.
works. And
Life
so,
doesn't work like that.
absolutely. So I'm glad, like with her, that she's going through this grind and she's getting frustrated, but I'm glad because
Hmm.
we've been telling her this time was going to come, but I'd rather it happen now
And
versus
it's
you.
building her character.
Right, right. Even as great as you
Hmm.
are in school, and that doesn't mean that you won't continue to be great, but every now and then, just like we're talking about right now, is you're gonna hit that class that man, this class hitting different. I'm not picking up on this like I usually do, which means I'm gonna have to put a little bit more effort into it. I'm gonna have to put a little bit more work into it to get out of it what I need to get
Or
out
that
of
the
it.
teacher may not like you. 'Cause
That part
everybody's
too.
not going to like you either.
Sometimes that's it.
I
And
think that's something that our young people struggle with. They don't, and even though we may have poured that into them, what people think about them and how they're treated carries way too much weight, in
mm-hmm.
my opinion. Now, I get we all want people to like us, but when we get in the real world, and we know, Joe, just from an employment standpoint, you're not always going to be in a feel good situation, and a lot of times you may be in a toxic situation. But I feel like they struggle really, really bad with that. I know
Mm-hmm.
mine does.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though I did all of those things, he's still of a generation where what's the word? You just said the word. Um,
This is that kind of that whole entitlement, that whole it's just supposed to all just lay out perfectly for me,
yes,
It's always supposed to be
yes, yes.
comfortable, No,
Uh-huh.
that's not how I roll.
That's
Even
not
if
real.
you could have given your best, done your best, brought forth your everything, you could have done everything that you could possibly do the right way and it still not be an ideal situation. So the question becomes, how do you respond in that moment? Do you just crumble under it? Well, they don't like me, or it didn't. I didn't get this opportunity. I was the best one. Yep. Guess what? Sometimes you are the best one, the most qualified, and you get overlooked. What
Yeah,
you gonna do about it? Are you gonna,
yeah,
like I said, gonna stay stuck in that moment, or are you gonna say, you know what? Okay, this is how it is. What moves are you going to make? How are you going to respond to that? Or do you just allow the first inch of rejection to
to
just defeat you,
flatline you.
to flatline you,
Hmm.
like you said?
Yeah,
And so that's why I say the way you spoke about that, it just vividly reminded me about my mom, and just the boundaries and the intentionality, and just trying to do everything possible to really just put you in the best position possible to be successful in life in all
absolutely.
facets of it. Um, and that is so
Uh-huh.
critical, I think, especially as a woman raising a son. And I love the fact that you put the twist in, like, hey, I'm a woman I can't teach him how to be a man, but what I can do is I can teach him how to treat a woman. And by default of me
Mm-hmm.
teaching him how to treat a woman, he's learning in an indirect way how to be a man, because that's part
Hmm.
of that role of manhood, is how do you treat other women. They have an
Hmm.
old saying that's out there, hey, don't treat or call any woman anything that you wouldn't want somebody to say to your mother. How do you
That's
do
right.
that? So
Truer words never been said.
absolutely. And then one last thing about what you said that I liked is, despite the frustration, the tension that you may have had with his dad, and the absence of him not being in your son's life the way you would have desired, I love the fact that you said, and my mom was the same way, I never talked about to my son. I never tried to get him to hate his father, or to be negative. In fact, I'm pretty sure your mindset was that if your son's father was willing to want to connect or whatever, you wouldn't have blocked that. You would have given him that
No.
opportunity, and again, when you speak about the younger generation of women who are in these type of single parent modes, you see it
Hmm.
so many times. You see that pitting that man against child type of thing, because the two of you aren't working out, and that's just not
Didn't
a
work.
good
That's not. Mm-mm.
thing to do. It's not healthy. It's just not right. And there are some kids who've
My
been
mom
denied
didn't do that
access.
to me, and my father was I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
My mother never spoke ill of my dad. Everything that I came to know about him, I came in. I mean, our relationship is in a much better place as the years have gone on. But she never spoke ill of him. She just didn't do that. She just was adamant that, and she would not allow anyone else to speak ill of my dad to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the same way with my son, you're not going to talk bad about his father. Not in front of, not even just to me if my son was nowhere around, and definitely not to my son.
Right, right, and
So
and
I
and I
just
love
think that
that.
that's not,
That is so
because
important.
you're gonna see it on your own. Mhm. You're gonna see it on your own. The child will see what they need to see in due time
Mm-hmm. And
without you
again,
saying a word.
you just never know that somewhere down the road there could be a moment where your son and his dad have
Absolutely.
that talk that they've needed to have all these years, and
Hmm.
there's still a possibility for a reconciliation, if you will, even
Reconciliation.
in later in
Absolutely.
life. And
And it has.
why would you want to damage that by creating this image in his head
Hmm.
that he should hate and reject who his
Yeah.
father is. Yeah, me and your dad didn't work out. That happens sometimes, but that's no reason
Hmm.
why you two can't have a
You
relationship.
two
There's
can't move forward.
yeah,
Hmm.
and I'm thankful that my mom didn't do that with me with my own dad,
I
and it
am too.
allowed that relationship to just organically develop. And so when my dad did pass, you know, he passed without me having a bitter taste in my mouth, without me, thinking
Exactly.
of him in some horrid, negative fashion.
Mhm.
Yeah, was there a certain level of hurt that I experienced where I wished, we had
Oh
more
yeah.
of that father son quality time?
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. Did I hate the
Yeah.
man? No, no. I mean, the situation
Because
was
no,
what it
it
was.
does. It's detrimental to you. If doing that would have just been detrimental to my son, it would have
Hmm.
hurt him just like if my mom did it with me. You know, it just maybe me and my dad wouldn't have been able to have the relationship that we have now if my
Yes.
mom would have handled that differently. And even with my son and his dad, they've been embarking on this relationship for some time now, and it has nothing to do with me. And I'm actually happy to see, them try. It's not where my son probably wants it to be, but at least it's on their terms and on his
Hmm.
terms, my son's terms, more importantly. So, that I've never agreed with bashing the father
Absolutely.
of the child.
Absolutely. I love your approach to that. And any ladies that are, particularly single moms that are listening into this show, please take heed to that. You are getting some nuggets right here from a woman who's been through that process. She's celebrating right now that her son has embarked on 30 years of life in spite of the odds
Mhm.
and the challenges, and what the world says that his life should have been, and it's not. He's
Mhm.
doing the total opposite of that, and he's still building. He's
Absolutely.
still growing in that story and that journey. So, and credit to you for your role in that, and God equipping
Thank you.
you to navigate it accordingly. So this was part of your
All glory
assignment.
to God. Truly,
You know,
all glory to God.
absolutely, absolutely. So when we talk about, we've been of course talking about your particular, well, I should say one of your, heavy moments in life, but we know that when it comes to adversity, sometimes it's something really heavy, and sometimes it could just be something, you know, randomly small, but nevertheless annoying, and I have to deal with it. So I'm curious to know
Mhm.
from you, when you do find yourself faced with adversity, challenging moments, like I said, whether it's something really big or even if it's just something minor, but nevertheless something I got to deal with. What is
Mhm.
the process that you like to go through that sort of helps you to be able to keep a level head, but at the same time deal with what is before you? What tends to work for you when you're faced with challenging times?
First things happen. I'm very cerebral, so a lot of thinking goes on in my head when I'm facing something. Um, and then I have a really great sister friend group. I typically, like I said, I have to go through and figure things out in my own head first, and then the whole time that I am doing that, I am talking to God. I am
Hmm.
like talking to Him. So I talk to Christ the way that I'm talking to you. Like there's no. Some people think you got to have this big formal
Right.
prayer, and that's great if that's for me. I talk just like we're talking, and I'm like, Lord, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm overwhelmed, whatever the situation may be. I suffered a tremendous loss. One of my best friends was killed back in 2006, and I believe we knew it. You were probably around, I don't know if you remember, but that was really traumatic. And the way that I got through with that, I had to just talk with God and just like pray about it. And me and my mom are really, really close. So talking is if I have talking and praying, praying and talking. And if you have, it doesn't have to be a group. It could be one person that you can go to and just lay it all out there. And that person is honest with you. Because sometimes you can be so deep in your own head that you believe your view on things is the right view, and you need that person to be like, well, no, I hear what you're saying. And I've got a great group of friends that I've been friends with since high school. And we're there for one another. We've been through some really traumatic and some really outstanding time see the other, but we talk communication and
Mm-hmm.
being open. I'm just very open. I'm an open book. I am an open book. Sometimes, open, but if I trust you and you're in my circle of trust, that's how I get it out. I can't keep the toxicness inside. I have
Mm-hmm.
to get it out. And I also like to read and write. I journal a lot. Haven't been doing it that much lately because I just ain't had time. But just my thing is, once I get that out, I'm able to heal and move forward and have some clarity because I'm talking about it and with people that I trust and that trust me and that I love. And the first thing that happens is I'm talking to God. And I try to listen because sometimes we're like, I'm gonna talk to God, I'm gonna leave it with God, but then we really don't
Mm-hmm.
listen. we
Yeah.
want we want him to just strike a lightning bolt and fix it right there, and it doesn't happen that way. Sometimes you got to be still, and it took me a long time to know what be still even really means. And so those are, but that's my way:
Gotcha.
prayer, communication with my village.
Mm-hmm. I
I
love
don't
that.
know what I would do without
I love
either.
that.
I don't.
Again, you unpacked a few great nuggets there. Like, we all know, and hey, talk to God. But it's so easy for us to, we just kind of
Mhm,
casually say that. But I like the fact that you added on that.
mhm,
Don't just go to him. Oh, I got this problem. Help me, help me, help me, and then you run off. No, you have to. You bring
mhm,
it to him,
mhm.
and then you take a
Every
moment
day,
to
all
sit
day.
there and actually listen to. Did you even hear his response? Did you even give him a chance to respond back to you? Or did you just throw your demands out to him and you just want him, like you said, like a lightning bolt? You just want him to hurry up and fix it and make it go away. No, you need to take a moment to pause and see what is he going to respond back to you and telling you, what your part of it is, what your role of it is, and how you should act accordingly in getting to that end result. Quit treating God like, in other words, like the genie in the lamp that
A
you just
journal
rub
through.
on, or Santa Claus, we just make a wish, and he just makes it happen. Well, we know he can, but he wants some
Mhm.
engagement, some involvement
But
with the two of you. That's where the
he wants
relationship
he
piece
wants you to
comes in.
heal. Yeah, but
You know,
a lot of that conversation goes on in here. The Holy Spirit,
it,
the conviction, all of that,
all of
and
that.
I just not just like you said, not just when times are going bad, but when times are good, I'm rejoicing and thanking him and letting him know that I recognize that this is good because of what he did. So it has
Exactly.
to be like I talk to God all day, all throughout the day, every day. I just little conversation while I'm working. Something might piss me off or something may make me happy. And I'm like, ooh, Lord, like it's
Mm-hmm.
a relationship. It's a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. It's not just go to church on Sunday, open your Bible and saying. I'm not saying that that's because we need that as well, but it's a relationship for me. It's
Yes.
it's it's the truest relationship that I have.
I love
So
that. I love
that's how
that.
I get.
Yes, and you speaking truth. I mean, it can't just be on Sunday morning. It has to be ongoing all the time. Whether things are great, whether things are bad, where it's somewhere in the middle, there has to be constant conversation. That's how you build that relationship. You've been talking about throughout our time together so far. It's that one of the central themes has been communication. So
Mm-hmm.
communicating with God, and then, like you said, having that village of people around you is a wonderful thing. And again, I like that you said it doesn't have to be. I don't have to have 1,000 folks. Like we get caught up in the social media hype. I got to have all these followers and all these likes. No, I just need a genuine, at least just one genuine, authentic person who I can
Mm-hmm.
pour out to, who is not there to judge me and criticize me, but will keep it real with me.
Oh
They'll
yeah,
tell me when I'm
absolutely.
they'll let me know when I'm on to something, and they'll let me know when I'm dead wrong. But they'll do it in love. They'll do it with,
In love.
yeah, it's not to, I'm not here to beat you down. I'm like, okay, I hear you. I'm just, can I be honest with you? You were wrong on that one. And this is why. And this is what I would recommend that you do to rectify the situation. And when you have people like that around you, that that their spirit is there, and in the sense of, I mean the best for you, even if it means telling you a truth that might sting a little bit, you can receive that, and that's exactly what that circle needs to look like.
Yeah,
So even as we're having this conversation, anybody that's listening, be mindful of not just creating a circle just for the sake of having a crowd, but are these going to be the
exactly.
people that are going to be there when, not just there when I'm at my high point, but when I'm in my lowest, darkest space? Is these same people, are these same people going to be the ones that are going to be around, or does everybody just sort of disappear because I don't have anything that they
Right,
can cling to
exactly.
or get from me or whatever? Are they
Uh-huh.
there? Are they riding with me when things are great, and are they riding with me when I can barely move? That's the circle that I want. So I'm thankful to hear that you have such a circle like that in your presence. It's so necessary. And to have again those people to pour out to, and in between that and God has his role in that. He if you talk to him and you build that relationship with him, he'll give you the discernment to know
Mhm.
who's to be in that circle with you. You won't it
Who's
won't be a
who?
confusion for
Who's
you. You'll
who?
know, and you'll know who. Oh, you know what? I need to pull back
Mhm.
from them, or I need to be cautious about what I talk
Exactly.
about around them.
Absolutely.
I gotta set those boundaries, if you will. So, good stuff. Good stuff. So, Denise, if you had an opportunity to, as you reflect back on what this journey of life has been for you, ups and downs and everything in between, if you had an opportunity to speak to the younger version of Denise, that the new single mom trying to do it on her own, just trying to figure out life, trying to find, what is the purpose of it all? Why do you go through what you're going through? If you had a chance to talk to her, or perhaps even talk to somebody who might be in a situation like you were back then, and they're trying to figure it all out, trying to come up with the best approach, if you will, what would be the words of wisdom that you would drop to share with somebody, to either the younger version of yourself or somebody who's like the younger version of yourself, that you think would be helpful in getting their mind and their perspective in the right place so that they can be able to handle life and everything that comes with it in a healthy and appropriate way?
Um, One thing for sure is that I would tell my younger self what my grandmother used to always tell me: it's going to be okay, or it's going to be okay. As long as your
Mm.
motive, as long as your motives are pure. Hold on one second. Plug this up for me because I'm getting ready to lose power. I'm sorry, Joe. Just give me one second.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I love the way you started off. It's either going to be okay or is it going to be okay?
It's
I
gonna be
love that.
it's gonna be all right, or it's gonna be all right. And
Mm.
also, um, just never like giving up on yourself. And no matter how difficult things get, if you have a community or a village of people that you can trust, like make that be the folk. Not don't be so caught up on having this big group of friends, or but just gravitating organically towards people that support you, because that's what got me through, was having a support system, a village, having that foundation of Christ. Those three things can get you through anything that you encounter, and being honest with yourself at all times. When
Mm.
you look in the mirror, call yourself what you are. Tell the truth to yourself first. Because if you tell yourself lies, that's going to project out, and that's what everybody else is going to tell you lies. You need
Mm.
to be transparent with yourself. Right,
I,
wrong, good, bad, ugly, all of
mm-hmm.
it. Because you're not always going to be the greatest version of yourself. But in those times, you need to recognize that that's exactly what it is, so you can try to be better. And I just think you just have to communicate, be honest, and make sure you have a village, a support at all times. Um, and I'm saying that because I had that, and so I wouldn't change anything about the way that younger Denise. Um, I wish I would have been a better financial planner. That's what I would have told the younger Denise. Get your finances together.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, just being transparent and being a communicator. You have to live in your truth. You have to.
Yes, yes.
And I don't know if that's a little bit too much for, I don't, as far as like when I'm thinking of like a younger girl that may be single and trying to, maneuver and figure things out. That's what I would say because that's the things that I've said to even the younger girls that I've mentored throughout different times in my life. When I was even younger, I mentored. It's just like you have to be honest with yourself at every aspect of your life, at whatever point in your life that you're at. And,
Hmm.
keep your village tight, keep it tight.
Yeah, and I think even if you're somebody that doesn't currently have that village, I mean, if you're trying to draw the one around you, the authentic people, I can't ask for authentic, keep it real type folks to be in my circle if, as you stated, I'm not keeping it real with myself. I'm not being honest about myself. We have to be willing to stand in that
Hmm.
mirror and like you said,
Hmm.
call us what we are, allowing ourselves to call us what we are. Now, what I would add to that is that in that calling out of who we are, both the good and the not so good, we also have to be willing to, and it's okay to embrace forgiving ourselves. Forgiving ourselves for,
Absolutely.
may not being the best of this or the best of that we could be. We all make mistakes. We all fall short. We all have challenges. So, but don't beat yourself up about where you fall short at. Just see it as an opportunity to build on, to work on, to make it better. To tweak those things to where you can be a better version of you for the stuff that you struggle with, and then the stuff that you're really good at, make that even better than what it is. So the combination of those two not only helps you individually, but then again, it allows you to be drawn to that circle that you spoke of people, if you don't currently have that already, to bring those
Right.
people near to you because they'll feel that
Yeah.
energy from you. They'll feel that realness,
They will.
so
And
they'll
the
come to you.
honesty.
Hmm.
Yeah. I even and I'm glad that you brought forgiveness because that's a piece that I forgot. We're hardest on ourselves, and that is something that I think that I was hard on myself a lot, and you do have to be able to forgive yourself for stumbling and falling because
Hmm.
it's all about moving forward and how you resolve builds your character, like we talked about earlier, even with the kids, just knowing that everything is not going to be beautiful and fall into place all the time. And some of it's going to be your own fault because of bad decisions that you made. I carried that a lot with choosing the person that I chose to father my son. It took me a long time to forgive myself for that. So that would be, I'm glad you brought that up because that would be something that I would tell the younger Denise. Forgive yourself for that. You
Hmm.
know, it you have to be able to forgive yourself, or you're asking God to forgive you, but then you don't want to forgive yourself.
Right.
So
Forgive
I'm,
yourself, and
I'm
and
glad that
and
you, that was a piece I
and
forgot.
again, also just embrace those challenging times. Instead of saying, "I wish this would have never happened," because even as you just spoke of about, I would have told my younger self to, be forgiving of the choice that I made. But you know what? While the choice may not have been ideal in terms of how the parental setup was, the blessing
Hmm.
is still present, which was you were able to bring forth a
Absolutely.
son that I'm sure even if you
Hmm.
had to wind the clock back, you wouldn't give him back. You would still
I
want him to
would
be
not.
here.
I would not.
So,
I would
you wouldn't say I wished he didn't happen. So it's like
right.
we have to
Right.
we
Right.
kind of have to train our thinking a little bit to where we don't look at bad times as being bad times, but as instead look at them as
Give
opportunities.
ourselves grace.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and give ourselves grace. I think young people today give themselves grace for the wrong things,
Hmm.
but you do need to be able to give yourself grace.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this has been really good stuff. I mean, you dropped some major nuggets, and I know somebody's going to be blessed with the story that you shared. But before I let you go, I do want to take an opportunity, of
Hmm.
course, to celebrate you, to love on you, to affirm you. So if you would, if you have anything that you got going on in the works, whether it's right now or that you're in the midst of doing, that we can again just celebrate and acknowledge and put out there, please tell us, what's going on with you right now that we need to hype that up. I know you got your business going. Tell people about that. Anything
Yes.
else that you got to share?
So I forgot when I was at the beginning talking about myself. It's still hard for me to talk about stuff like it's hard to pat yourself on the back sometimes, but I do. I am the owner and entrepreneur of my own popcorn business. I don't know if you remember how much I love popcorn, but
Yes.
I did start a popcorn business back in 2019, and it was going really good. And then I kind of got burnt out a little bit. And so now I'm in the process of getting back out there, revamping, rebranding, and taking it to the next level in a real way. Because before it was just kind of online and I did, events all around the city and stuff. And now my goal is to be in somebody's Target or Walmart, my
Hmm.
popcorn on the shelf. So I'm trying to baby step my way back into that. And so that's like really exciting because I had for a minute I thought I had lost the desire because like I said, I kind of got burnt out because of the way that my popcorn is produced. I physically pop it. There's no machine, no popcorn popper. I'm the popcorn popper. So it's a lot of physicalities in it.
Hmm.
But I'm excited again, and like I said, I'm looking to rebrand and get back out there and put it out there. So that's my big thing that I'm working on right now.
Well, that's awesome. So, if anybody, I mean, again, I know you're in the process of rebranding. I don't know if you're actively still selling anything right now, if it's a way. But I was just curious, if anybody wanted
Yes.
to reach out to you about,
Mhm.
your services, whether they're local or if they want some shipped, how what would be the best way to
I do
inquire with you
ship.
about that?
I do ship. So I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram at Pop Culture Popcorn. That's the Instagram. And then on Facebook, it's under Nisi Hatcher. But that's all the part of because I want to
Gotcha.
streamline everything and get it all under one. Because when I first started doing it, I didn't know anything about social media and how it all. So I just created a page and said, this is what we're going to do. So I am on Facebook and it's under Nisi Hatcher. And then if you pull it up, you'll see the popcorn logo and all of that. And you can message me.
All
I
right.
run specials all the time. And so, yeah, you can get on there and it's best to message me because sometimes I miss posts because, again, I still am new to this whole social media, thing. But yeah, I'm still doing it. I take orders. People, they reach out on Messenger or on IG. And if they need it shipped, I've actually shipped as far as not Kuwait. I forget what it was. One of those countries over there. Guy in the
Wow.
military, and he was a friend of a friend, and saw the post and said, "I want some popcorn from home," and I shipped it over there to him, and he got it, and it was he was happy with it. It was still fresh, so
All right.
I'm just trying to get it more streamlined where it can be where you can just go on and order and stuff like that. But that's where it is right now. So,
That is awesome. Awesome. So everybody get your pop culture on. Get your popcorn. She got. I know I've seen the site. You got all kind of different flavors and such. So
uh-huh.
if you
Over
if
20 different flavors,
hey,
hand popped,
hand popped.
old
Hey,
school style.
there you go. That's what I love about. I saw that the way you have it set up, and like I said, you don't get that anymore. It's just kind of you think about going to the movies or other stuff, and it's just you might get some old popcorn just been sitting there all day, but to get it old school, fresh, popped,
Exactly.
that's some good
Uh-huh.
stuff. And so again, congratulations to you on your business venture, and we're just gonna speak into existence
Yeah.
that you're rebranding and everything is gonna go smoothly, and it's getting ready to go to levels upon levels upon levels, and you're gonna be that household name, and we're gonna walk up in the Targets and some of these other places one day, and there's your face gonna be with your popcorn, and I'm gonna be one of the first ones
Be
pumping it up
embarrassed
like I
around
know
everybody.
her. I might need to get your autograph now before you blow up, with your popcorn. So but that's good stuff, Nisi. That's good stuff. So Again, thank you so much for being a part of the show today, sharing your story, just keeping it real, just being transparent. I know I was blessed, and I know others who have an opportunity to listen to the podcast are going to be blessed as well. Lots of nuggets, lots of gems that you dropped today, and I'm just so grateful that you were willing to be a part of this experience. And as always, it's great to catch up with you and just seeing that you're looking good and doing well, and just letting God use you, and use your gifts, use your talents, and to do great and wonderful things and change and being a game changer in this world, Lord. Just not letting anything stop you, not keeping you holding you back or anything like that. You're a fighter, you're resilient, and you just don't you just don't allow yourself to just settle. And you can't do anything but respect that in anybody. So I'm pleased to see that in you, and just looking for great and magnificent things to come out from your life, and of course out of your son's life, because I know he's doing his thing as well. So for my listeners, if you've enjoyed the content, you've enjoyed what we're doing here, please subscribe, share, comment, like, because here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is what we're all about: empowering, uplifting, encouraging, inspiring, sharing our stories, being real with it, laying it all out there, hoping that somebody at this particular appointed moment in time needed to hear the message that was shared, needed to hear that testimony that was shared, just to give you hope that, no matter what the obstacles are, no matter what the challenges are, you can overcome them. You can get through that. It's just a part of the process. It's a part of that journey. Embrace the journey, learn from the journey, grow from the journey, and just most importantly, lean into God and allow that relationship to unfold, and just watch how wonderful and magnificent things will play out in your life, how things will be a lot more simpler than we tend to make it sometimes when we try to carry all that weight by ourselves. We weren't meant to do life by ourselves. And so we have to
Yeah.
understand the power in that relationship and embrace it. Not telling you something that we heard, we're telling you something that we know personally firsthand. And it's not just for us, it's available to you as well. So with that said, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, always remember that this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and where your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, God bless. Keep fighting that good fight. Keep persevering. Don't give up. Overcome those challenges and those obstacles. I know you can do it. We know that you can do it. God knows that you can do it. Lean into him. Let him take control of your life. Build that relationship and just watch him do wonderful and magnificent things in it. Until next time, take care of yourselves.